Hey everyone, in today's video, I want to talk a little bit about literacy intervention, and I want to share 3 fun activities that are also not only engaging but effective in small group or one-on-one literacy intervention. You likely already know, but intervention is when we are able to meet with our small groups of students or students one-on-one to meet them at their specific needs. In a group of 30 or 20 or however many kids, your students are going to be at all different levels in terms of literacy. They're going to be working on different things, they need different help, and you can't necessarily do all of that whole group. So when you're meeting with your students, you can meet with them, you can intervene, meaning find them where they're at, to help give them the best skills and give them the best progression and activities that they need to get them to that next level. Now, there are a ton of different literacy intervention activities you can do with your students, so I wanted to just share 3 of my favorite, and if you like these 3, let me know at the end of the video and I can try to create some other videos sharing other literacy interventions as well. So let's dive in. Go ahead, give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and let's go. All right, before I tell you about activity number 1, I want to answer 2 quick questions that I will probably get. First, when we are thinking about intervention for our K-2 learners, there are going to be all different parts of literacy that your students will need help on. For instance, reading comprehension, reading fluency, but very often in our K-2 classrooms, the biggest focus here is going to be on phonics, phonemic awareness, and kind of those building blocks to having students first be able to learn to read before we get into more difficult tasks like comprehension and fluency, because many of your K-2 students are still learning to read in the first place. So the interventions I'm going to talk about today will be phonics and phonemic awareness based. Secondly, I have mentioned this before in my other phonics videos, but when assessing where students are in terms of their phonics and what skills and patterns they need to work on, my favorite screener to use is the Core Phonics Screener. It looks like this, and I will go ahead and link this down in the description. You can just Google it. It's free. Print it out and use it with your students. Okay, and lastly, one more tiny thing, but because this is intervention and what I'm going to share are some activities, I think it's important to note, just so nobody gets confused, that during intervention, you are explicitly teaching your students the sound or pattern or whatever the skill you're working on. You are explicitly teaching it to them before you dive into any of these activities. In fact, you'll probably review it each and every time you meet with your kids until they move on to a different skill. So that is always kind of the first thing. All right, intervention activity number 1 that I love to use with my students is a sound sort. After you've gone ahead and taught your students what graphemes make those phonemes, you want students to see if they can hear and recognize those sounds in different words. Now, there's a few different ways you can do this, but a very simple way I like to get started with is a simple thumbs up or thumbs down sort. With an activity like this, you will simply say a word and students will give you a thumbs up if they hear that sound or a thumbs down if they do not. This is a great way for you to do a real quick check-in to see what students are able to recognize those phonemes within spoken words. To take it one step further, I like to print out some simple pictures of clip art or some images that you find that, again, don't have any graphemes yet, they don't have any letters, this is just a sound sort. So students will be able to look at the images and think, yes, it does have this sound, or no, it does not. Last spring, I came out with these phoneme isolation sorts. They look like this. They are both digital and printable, but in the printable version, students will look at the pictures and determine, yes, it has this sound, or no, it does not have this sound. What I like about these sorts as well is I actually separated them by beginning, middle, and final sound. So you can tell students to think about the beginning sound, you can tell them to focus on the middle sound or the end sound, and it'll be listed up in the top left corner. I currently only have that little unit for CVC words, but I am in the process of making it for digraphs and some other skills as well. Okay, activity number 2 I love for literacy intervention are word ladders. Now, this is another one I have shared in the past before, but I love a good word ladder because after students have learned the new sound that they're learning, after they've done some phonemic awareness activities like a sound sort, now this is where you want them to manipulate the graphemes to make those phonemes. First, students can go into some regular word building. Let's pretend we are focusing on CVC words with that middle vowel A, and they might build the word hat. And now to do this here, you would see that I would only have a few letters for them to choose at a time. And I would definitely do this with something like magnet letters or letter tiles first before I have students write down the words. Then you could have them change hat into had, changing that last final phoneme. Then you could have them change had into dad and dad into sad. After students are able to physically manipulate those letter tiles, you can take this a step further by having them actually encode the words as well and write them down. And this is easy to do just with a regular whiteboard, a small whiteboard that they might have, and a dry erase marker. You can have them repeat that process, but they can actually see all the words listed there instead. I like this too because here students are looking at the word hat and they have to go ahead and rewrite it to change it to the word had. And when they're done with their word letter, it's really beneficial for them to actually see how they changed the word hat into the word sad. They can take a close look at the words and see how our words really work and how letters and sounds work together to make new words. And then of course at the end they have a little list of words that they can read back to you. Okay, literacy intervention number 3 is a newer one that I just came out with and I absolutely love it. I have been doing this with my own 2 sons, Theodore and Calvin. Calvin is entering kindergarten next year and we are working on decoding some very basic CVC sounds. We're not doing anything too heavy because he's entering kindergarten and I want him to do stuff at his own pace. But whenever I'm making some sort of educational activities, both boys get very excited and always want to try them out. What I did is I very carefully crafted these one-page decodable interventions and they look like this. So here's an example of a sheet with the short vowel A sound. You can see the focus scale is up at the top right corner. And these ones specifically focus on CVC words. So if you had a student or a group of students who are working on that, this would be perfect for them. And of course, just to mention, they would have already, learned the sound. They would have done something like a sound sort where they're not even introduced to the graphemes yet. And then they would have done some phoneme manipulation and letter manipulation with something like those word ladders that I talked about earlier. Then students could move on to a sheet like this. And what I like about the way that this is set up is students are going to kind of successively review different skills before they read these sentences. So up at the top, you can see there are some individual letters that students will point to and they will say what the sound is for each one. Then they go into the 6 words next, which are all going to be included in those decodable sentences underneath. So here is where they will practice blending those sounds to decode these words: sad, bag, cat, sat, bat, and tag. Then after they've done that, they're again building their confidence. They will go into reading some decodable sentences where all 6 of those words are down in those sentences as well. After they go ahead and read all 3 sentences, there is a place for students to practice encoding some words by writing down 2 words that my teacher says. And you could either choose words that are already on here, or you might want to try to challenge them with a different CVC word that has short vowel A that they may not have seen on this page. And lastly, of course, our goal for reading anything is to make meaning, so I do want them to choose a sentence from above and try to illustrate it in that box below. An activity like this one really builds confidence with your students as they're able to work from just those letter sounds down to just the individual words, then to practicing it within sentences, encoding, and then checking for comprehension. Like I said, I've been using these with my own sons and they absolutely love them. And I really like that I can pull whatever skill each of my kids needs, basically their intervention, and that they're not kind of a one size fits all. You can choose whatever skills your kids are working on. Just to show you, this is what I currently have right now. This is the table of contents. And so you can see it has short vowels into mixed CVC words, L blends, mixed blends, digraphs. We have silent E, some different vowel patterns, and there's a lot more coming soon. And because I wanted to make this resource as easy to use as possible for teachers, I also included a sheet like this one to go with each and every target skill. You can see here at the top, this is actually kind of 2 half sheets here, but at the top I included a visual aid for each target skill. So students will have an image to go along with the grapheme, the sound, and then an example word as well. So this one would be apple. The bottom sheet here has some examples for phonemic awareness activities like I mentioned in this video and like I list out in this unit. So I have some examples of words you might want to share with students to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down for a sound sort. So here they would say tap, top, ham, gut, in whatever order you wanted, and they would give a thumbs up if they could hear that A and a thumbs down if they could not. Then on the right-hand side, I have those little yellow counters, and those are some example words I would give for students to say out loud. You wouldn't actually have them write anything down yet, and they would just tap out how many sounds they hear. So they could do this with counters, like I showed there, in some sound boxes. They could do this with Play-Doh. They could do it with any little sensory activity, something that's a little tactile for them. Then with that ABC there, I include a quick little word ladder that your students could do with magnet tiles or on a whiteboard like I mentioned earlier. For each of those target skills, there are currently 3 one-page sheets for you to use with your students. Right now, the unit has 93 plus pages, but it's still growing because I'm adding more and more skills and target focuses for you to work on with your kids. If you are interested in those one-page decodables, I will go ahead and link them down in the description below. Go ahead and check out the preview to see if that's something you would like to use with your kids. All right, so there were 3 different literacy interventions that I like to use with my students. Just to remind us, we have sound sorts. You can do this as easily as a thumbs up or a thumbs down. You can also use picture cards, which is a great easy way to do that as well. Activity number 2 was using word ladders, which I do like to have students actually manipulate letter tiles first, make it a little more tactile, and then you can have students use a whiteboard to write the words down. And activity number 3 were those one-page decodable intervention sheets where students are kind of scaffolding as they work from letter to word to sentence. Then they practice encoding and comprehension all at once. I know there are so many different literacy interventions we can do with our students. Here I just highlighted 3 of them. So if you want to know some more literacy interventions for small group or one-on-one instruction, let me know down in the comments and I'll see if I can make another video. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel and click that bell. That way you're notified of every new video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.